Welcome to the High Vibe Moms Club, the podcast for ambitious women ready to ditch burnout, diet culture, and mom guilt so they can feel hot, healthy, and radiant from the inside out. I'm your host, Shannon, and this isn't just another wellness podcast. It's a movement. If you're ready to raise your vibe, reset your health, and step into your most confident self, you're in the right place. I am so excited, ladies, for today's episode because we are going to be having a powerful conversation that every mama needs to hear. I am joined by ZuZu and her daughter, Amy, two women who are redefining what healing looks like for us busy mamas. We are going to be talking about gut health, nervous system, burnout, and just how to really rebuild our health from love instead of pressure. So welcome.
That was wonderful. You know, we love the love thing. I drove all of 2022 in my RV, which literally has the chromosomes wrapped around it, DNA and organs, and it just looks so cool. And it says, "We love your guts," in like 3-foot letters. And people would pull up next to me and I'd be like, "Hey," and they'd be like, "We love this." You know, they're like,
Yes.
People just love love. And I'm so excited to be part of this because what better way to share it than with food, which we all love in the first place? Hopefully. And so I'm excited. I want to talk about frequencies of food at some point today. That would be a fun thing to talk about, but I'm glad to be here.
Yes, let's dive in. Okay, so ZuZu, I'm going to start with you, and Amy, I'm going to tie you in as well. But before you were teaching healing, cooking, or empowerment, you were working on your own journey with dealing with epilepsy, scoliosis, and spinal arthritis. Is that correct?
Well, the arthritis, I didn't even know I had. I had pain in my back, but I found it on thermal imaging when I got older. Luckily, I got rid of it in a year. But yeah, it was. You know, I love my life. I love my life. I love my parents. I love my life. I love my brothers. But I did grow up with epilepsy, so I'd have seizures, and I had a little bell my mom bought me, and so when I went to someone's home for a sleepover, I'd have my bell with me, and I could ring the bell to let them know, "Hey, I'm going to have a seizure, so I can't talk." Because I couldn't talk for quite a long time, and I drool, and it was just super fun on a date. But anyhow, so I was like, and so that was that, but I was happy, but I was on medications. And when I got married, I was like, I don't want to be on medication and have a baby. That just doesn't seem right. And then I started really looking into how to stop seizures, but I'm 58. So that was before the World Wide Web, before any kind of internet. So it was all books and reading and study at a library and magazines. And and I just started taking myself off of my 3 pharmaceuticals and reversing that with food. And what's super cool, Sharon, is that that I now, like later, 2 decades later, when I learned how the nervous system works, well, actually, it wasn't that long, but I was like, oh my gosh, I was deficient in GABA. The foods that I went to were all GABA rich. And so I've helped thousands of people, just be able to understand the nervous system, and so many epileptics and those with Tourette's. I just had another gentleman in our office the other day, understanding GABA and how it can so quickly eliminate seizures and Tourette's and a lot of the disorders just because it's the neurotransmitter that controls electricity. So for me, learning and applying was just something that I loved. And then the scoliosis, I took care of that in 18 months. When I was 50, I must have been 55, 54 when I took care of that. And that was cool. It was every week at the myofascial specialist and every week at the chiropractor. And I used acupuncture and a lot of deep breathing, but it was really cool. So yeah, it's been a neat journey.
Amazing. I definitely want to share this with my cousin who has had epilepsy from the beginning. So she is in the hospital at least once a month. She's always there. My other cousin, her sister, actually passed away. She had a seizure in her sleep and suffocated. So it definitely, try not to get emotional, definitely hits home. So for her to not, both of them, their entire life, they were on so many different medications, so many different trials, hair falling out, losing weight, gaining weight, all the things. So the fact that you were able to heal from food alone, it just gives me so much hope for her.
Well, that makes me emotional. I just had a client, or actually one of my students reach out, and she was like, they just lost someone very dear to them and their family, very close, like a sister or someone because of a seizure. And she's like, but they didn't want to know, Karen. They just didn't want to know. And that
Mm-hmm.
was so hard because I'm like, oh, jeepers. Even some of when I was living out west, they didn't allow, they outlawed some of the medicines that would stop seizures instantly. And people would have to leave the state and go down into Nevada, take the products we recommended, and they never had a seizure again. And it's like, how many people do we lose when we aren't able to communicate with them or they simply don't know? So I'm so sorry for your loss, sweetie. And I'm glad that you're able to share things now. And does it work for everybody? I don't know. Has it worked for people I've worked with? But that's just that. And Amy grew up with this. Amy grew up watching what we did, and she would be in the health food store talking to people at age 12, and 13, and 14. And her favorite word when she was 8 years old was endoplasmic reticulum. Like, and now she can talk about that until the cows come home because she's got her degree in Master of Public Health. So it's just fun to have watched, watch what
Yes.
happens when you're in that environment.
And
Yeah,
Amy, I wanted to ask you, so how was it growing up and navigating through your mother's illness? Your mom kind of touched on that, but can you dive in a little bit deeper?
definitely. Well, by the time she had any of us, she had actually put her epilepsy into remission. So
Mm,
I never witnessed any of that. That was all before she started having babies. What I did get to witness firsthand was the after effects of her righteous rage which she didn't take out on the family, but she took it out in the form of excessive community education,
yes.
of realizing she suffered with something for 2 decades of her life that 3 months of holistic nutrition resolved for her. Now, again, it's not going to be like that for everyone, okay? But when we're talking about like whether or not the healthcare system is incentivized to not help people get well from expensive conditions, there's really no question right now about whether or not there's money going into how our healthcare system is operating right now.
Absolutely.
So she got on the other side of that and was like, wait a second. If my doctors either A, didn't know how to treat epilepsy holistically, or B, didn't want to tell me, what else are there solutions to that people aren't being told? Whether it
Hmm.
comes to high blood pressure, or cancer, or diabetes, or depression, or
Yeah.
fibromyalgia, or infertility, or chronic back pain, where people are just being put on pain medications or being referred out to
Hmm.
surgery before they've literally tried any of these holistic
Yeah.
methods. So she just went down the rabbit hole, and that's the part I witnessed was her go down hole after hole after hole of, oh my gosh, there are solutions you can do from home for these conditions. I
Hmm.
will I will mention a caveat in that we're definitely not anti-modern medicine in our viewpoint. So there are instances where we do refer people to the doctor or to hospitals or for either diagnostic care, or in certain instances there may be a medication that would help them stabilize so that they can
Hmm.
adopt these holistic things. So for us it's not black or white. It's not, are you natural or are you medical? It's like, okay, if
Yeah.
if there's a medication someone goes on and it stabilizes them enough that they can now adopt these healthy lifestyles principles and then come off of it, that is an amazing win-win, and actually how the majority of pharmaceutical drugs were designed were to be 6 month or
Mhm.
less interventions. So it wasn't
Yeah.
even in their design to be a long-term thing. Anyway, so we started learning literally just with our own community members the power of actually teaching people how their body works. And people, my background's all public health, and then they make a really strong argument that it's not just about what you know, it's about what do you have access to and what can you afford and what does your culture support. And if you live in a food desert, but you're being told to eat fresh vegetables, but all you have around you are little Caesar's pizzas and gas stations, like that's an issue. So we also
Mhm.
acknowledge that there are other real things. There's culture, there's finances, there's accessibility. These are real things, but I will still always go head to head with anyone in public health when they say, oh, it's not just education, I'm like, you never even tried educating them. You guys
Yeah.
never even tried. You never even tried teaching people how their body works and how they can put their disease into complete remission from home with
Mhm.
their lifestyle and the foods they eat and what the time of day they look at the sun and how they sleep at night and what they take throughout the day. You never even tried. So why are you ruling that out? Those other things matter, but our family has witnessed people completely change their lives in months when you
Yeah.
equip them with the right information. And yeah, that's been very cool to see. That's what I grew up watching, to answer your
Yeah.
question.
Yes, that's amazing. Actually, I healed some conditions. I had a hiatal hernia. I had GERD as well as what was the last one? So where it goes up, that's the hiatal hernia, GERD. Oh, and Barrett's esophagus at
Wow,
22.
good.
And they said, hey, just take these proton inhibitors for the rest of your life. And at the time, being 22, I was like, really, for the rest of my life? And they're like, oh, and then we could do the surgery to pull your stomach out of the esophagus, and we'll put a little like mesh liner and all that stuff. And of course, you rely on the medical experts. So I did start to take the proton inhibitors. And then that's when I was like, wait, what are the long-term effects of this? And then I started asking other specialists, and they're like, stop taking those. Long-term effects are not worth what you are dealing with right now. And yes, I know it's scary because they said you can develop esophageal cancer, but let's change your diet. So I went on an alkaline diet, and they did an endoscopy where they actually took a biopsy of my intestine, turns out celiac. So then gluten-free diet. And
Mhm.
after doing that for a full year, when I went back, the doctor was shocked. He was literally, he's like, sorry, you're going to be a little sore because I was going up and down because your hiatal hernia healed itself. And the Barrett's esophagus, it was a 3, 4 being the worst as far as erosion, it was at a 1.
Wow.
So just by changing my diet. So that's why I was like, all right, I'm all ears for nutrition and nervous
Um,
system and all the things versus taking a prescription.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, you had your own like total self-discovery journey with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
So when I found you guys, I was like, yes, my people.
That's right. That's
it's
right.
been so rewarding. It's been rewarding because people will come in. And I had a gentleman, him and his wife came to one of we do these retreats where people from around the world come and they stay for 5 days or 10 days or 21 days. And we had this gentleman come, he was local. And his wife started coming to our classes when we opened up here in Georgia, our retreat center. And he
Mhm.
didn't come. And after about a year, he came, and then he's like, okay, I'll come to the retreat. And he kind of got drugged there by his wife. He's loved it. He loved the food, loved and we have no meat, no dairy, no gluten, no grain, and no sugar, and it tastes phenomenal. Don't let that scare you. It's amazing, right? And he came in literally just a couple weeks ago, and he walked in, and he's older than I am, and he just found me, just kissed me on the cheek. He's like, "You have saved my life," and I'm like, "I didn't do it. You did it. You did."
Yeah.
He's gone down 4 pant sizes. He said, "I have more energy than I've ever had before." And it's not Amy and I, we just educate. That's why we're holistic health educators, right? Like we just
Mhm.
educate. And when you explain things, people grab onto it. I've been on podcasts where they're like, now these are really simple people. They're never going to understand anything holistic. And I'm like, oh, honey, yes, they will. I'm like, it's how you explain it and it's how you teach it. And I think that's what makes all the difference. So,
That's totally
Yeah.
right. And Shannon, I just want to hop in really quick. That retreat he attended was a detox retreat.
mhm.
So we do pull people off of all animal protein during a detox retreat because it's so heavy on the liver. But and they do, you really can help with like liver flushing and parasite cleansing and all of that by temporarily removing that. In our day-to-day philosophy, we do include healthily sourced animal proteins in our nutritional philosophy. I just wanted to
Okay.
make that clarification. But as far as the gluten goes, that is definitely something that I have seen people who are able to tolerate it again after eliminating it, and a lot of times with increased nervous system regulation comes increased ability to tolerate a lot more foods in general. So
Mhm.
I'm never gonna try to scare people away from like this food will be bad for you forever.
Yeah.
But one thing that I study extensively is neural inflammation. So
Mhm.
inflammation of the nervous system and of the brain. And when there is a protein or a compound that your body just has a reaction to, it is a huge driver of depressive symptoms, of fatigue,
Mm.
of feeling discouraged. And my symptoms of eating gluten are not bloating and gas and digestive disorders. It is a mood swing. It is feeling discouraged the
Oh.
following few days and just feeling like kind of down. And that has to deal with an inflammation pathway where your tryptophan is stolen from your serotonin pathway and shuttled into this or shunted, they would call it, into this pro-inflammation pathway. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty interesting how far-reaching the effects of like simple foods can make in someone's diet.
Well,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Okay, so when I first started growing up, I never knew I had this issue. Just right after I would eat, I would literally have to go diarrhea because I didn't realize that's what it was. And lo and behold, my mom had the same thing. She didn't know. So after certain meals, she would just say, "Oh, mom, or honey, it's normal. It's fine. That's just how our body functions." And I was just took that as it was. Oh, okay. I guess it's just normal to have to run to the bathroom after every meal. So now that I understand it a little bit deeper, it's nice that no, you don't have to deal with these symptoms and certain things. But I do. So, what you were talking about was really interesting. And if you can elaborate on that a little bit more, because I do have moms who have outbreaks on their skin. And, like you said, mental health stuff. Can you dive in a little bit deeper on what maybe common symptoms are, or maybe like the most, what's the best way to say this? The most common foods that could cause some of these symptoms?
hmm Karen, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I was so excited about you brought up the neuro. I love neurotransmitters, and I love that. So what I found, and I wanted to share this, Shannon, because you also have people that have had epilepsy in your life. So GABA, so we talk about acetylcholine and dopamine and serotonin and GABA. Those are like we talk about, all sorts of fun
Mhm.
things. But GABA, each of these neurotransmitters, if you look at personality tests, it's actually a neurotransmitter test. They don't tell you that. And so the exact same questions can be asked in a personality test as our neurotransmitter tests evaluations, and you find your personality. So a GABA dominant person is going to have different desires and outcomes than a GABA dominant or than a dopamine dominant. And I've got a fun, I can share some of that with you if you want to share it with your people. But it's interesting is each one of those also has a kryptonite. So like how Amy was talking that she eats something and oh, she'd feel bad. For GABA, so anybody with Tourette's and epilepsy, any kind of neck tremors, any kind of tremors, extra Y chromosome, avoid grain. It is night and day difference. Like you, I discovered this before I understood neurotransmitters. I found that we had licensed kitchens. So we had cafes and we had our grocery stores and we had our wellness centers, our educational buildings, super fun. We only did, gluten-free, incredible food, blah, blah, blah. We had some whole wheat bread also, but I shipped my recipe off to another bakery and they baked it all for us. But if I ate a cookie, I couldn't run up the stairs. And so I literally was doing this with our chefs. Like I'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna eat a cookie. And like and I run upstairs all the time because we had three buildings with three stories. So it was always up and down,
Mhm.
right? And I found that. And so then when I learned more about neurotransmitters and there's kryptonite, there really are kryptonite. There's really kryptonite. And there's things that you can
Mhm.
eat to enhance your neurotransmitter output. And there's things that you can't, like even any kind of, the Alzheimer's, they are, what is it, 90% deficient, Amy, in acetylcholine? The Alzheimer's patients are like, they have found this, and it's just incredible. What we eat makes such a big matter. So Amy, you can take it away. I just wanted to mention that when you were talking about what's happening to you, because that's exactly how I wanted to share that kryptonite fact.
I know you mentioned grain, Karen. Did you specifically dial in on sugar for GABA?
It was any kind of grain, even a piece of bread.
I know, but specifically sugar, like sugar added. I know grain breaks down into sugar, but like I think
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
worst
because
of all
even
would be
yeah, it was always with sugar. It was a grain with the sugar. Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
I could eat a piece of my gluten-free bread and not have an issue. But if I add a grain that had an added sugar, that combination, kryptonite, absolute kryptonite.
No, the most addicting thing ever.
Oh, is it ever? Oh my gosh, it's in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was
Well,
90% of the acetylcholine, by the way.
cool. Yeah, as far as skin conditions go, Shannon, so there's really three buckets I would put that in.
Mhm.
The first bucket would be as within, so without. And what I mean by that is barriers. If they have leaky gut going on in their intestines, that's going to
Mhm.
be a high likelihood that they'll have some type of heightened propensity for skin issues or issues with barriers in other places in their body. So like skin's a
I mean,
barrier.
really quick, leaky gut, I understand the permeability, but for the listeners who might be hearing leaky gut for the first time, can you go a little bit more in depth of exactly how it affects the bloodstream and all that good stuff?
Yeah, yeah, I would love to. So in your small intestine, it's not a completely sealed off hose like you might imagine it would be. There and one aspect of that, of course, is that you have little villi that are absorbing nutrients. They're absorbing amino acids and glucose primarily. That's what's being absorbed through the little microvilli. And they are absorbing that and sending it into the bloodstream to go up to the liver to be processed and then sent out into circulation to be delivered to the body. You
Mhm.
also do have little fatty acids, so all your fats that get absorbed as well, but those actually pass through your lymphatic system and into your bloodstream, and they don't go through the liver first. So we can talk about fats later, but that's kind of an interesting fun fact. Now, besides the little villi that are soaking up nutrients to get processed and go into circulation, you also have gaps in between those villi by design. All
Mhm.
right. So they're normally sealed and they're called tight junctions when they're like sealed up. But by design, they have the ability to open up and let material from your intestinal tract go, like pass through this epithelial tissue, which is part of your immune system, and into your and into a layer where your immune cells have exposure to it. And the body does that by design so that it can keep your body educated with what's coming in and if there's any pathogens that your immune cells should be made aware of. In fact, when mothers are breastfeeding their babies, they have heightened levels of leaky gut on purpose. The mom induces leaky gut so that the body can survey everything that's coming in, being like, oh, there's this bacteria, or oh, there's this viral particle, or oh, there's this new food, and make the antibodies that the baby might need if the baby is exposed to that thing. And like the mom's literally acting as the that filtration system and like gauging what's coming in from the outside world that my baby's going to need antibodies for or immune system signaling for because babies don't make antibodies the first several months of their life. They get them all from their mom. So that is like a really cool feature that moms deal with this, related to leaky gut. Now, where leaky gut becomes not a fun thing or not something helpful is when those tight junctions are separating way more frequently than they should be. And not because your body is just trying to take a random sample of what's in your body, but because it's being biologically induced. You have these triggers. Gluten is a really common trigger of an enzyme called zonulin that literally causes the tight junctions to open up and particles to fall through. So then what ends up happening is you get food particles, and even worse than that, you get excessive amounts of gut bacteria that is now passing through into circulation. Your immune system freaks out and is like, oh, we have all of this gut bacteria byproduct waste in our body now, and it triggers this immune response. And the number one thing that that immune response triggers is fatigue. And when your body thinks it's about to fight an infection, it makes you tired. It's like, okay, Shannon, go lay down. Like, we got to fight this. Don't go pick up your kids from school and plant six more rows in your garden and go dancing with your husband tonight. We have an infection coming up. So it's going to tell you to go lay down and sleep. So now all of a sudden you're fatigued. You get brain fog because all of these inflammatory particles are now floating around in your brain too. And even worse, they have found that gut bacteria can translocate to your brain. So anyway, that's probably not comforting, but it does provide some explanation as to like why people experience brain fog. And so,
Yeah. And
and
it
so
becomes chronic.
what was that?
And then it becomes chronic if you're
And then it
constantly
becomes chronic.
exposing
Yep.
yourself.
Yep. So then you get all this inflammation, you get all this brain fog, you get all this fatigue, and a lot of this can significantly decrease if you restore the right gut bacteria in your gut, the right
Mhm.
minerals, the right vitamins, the right amount of fiber, and get rid of some of those triggers that are triggering
Mhm.
leaky gut in the first place.
Mhm.
So we don't mind sharing like some specific, probiotics or brands that we've loved that have good clinical research behind them that help improve, leaky gut symptoms. Like optimizing the gut microbiome and increasing your mineral content are probably the two best things you can do for leaky gut. And then
Mhm.
definitely the nervous system regulation part. Um,
Yes.
I know I'm going on like a long rant, and I'll make this the final
No, I'm
piece of
loving
my
it.
long
I'm just
rant. Okay.
absorbing it all.
Okay. I'll make this is the last part of my extensive rant. But Shannon, do you want to guess? You might already know this. What percent of digestive activity shuts down when your body goes into fight or flight or
Ooh,
rage?
I want to say like 70 to 90.
Great guess. Yep. So it can be as little as like 20 or 30% if you just get a little startled. And it can be up to 80, even 90%. At that point, you're usually vomiting if it's like a complete redirection of blood flow. But let's say like on average we're dealing with 50%. Okay. What does that mean? That means that 50% of the capillary sphincters that allow blood flow to go to your digestive organs are closed because it's redirecting blood flow to your extremities away from digestion. So you're having half of the blood flow. It might not be literally half, but you're having a significant percent reduction in blood flow
Yeah.
to your liver, to your stomach, to your small intestines, to your colon. So you have a reduction in blood flow, reduction in nervous system firing, reduction in stomach acid production. This is why a big reason why stress literally induces acid reflux because,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, the low acidity. I always
yep,
thought it was high acidity
Yeah.
based on my
Yep.
testing, and they're like, no, it's actually low. It's like,
yeah,
really?
yeah, because if you're stressed out, your body is releasing norepinephrine instead of acetylcholine. And
Mhm.
acetylcholine is what the vagus nerve releases. That literally tells your stomach to make stomach acid. Right? So that's why you relax the body, acetylcholine gets released, it improves blood flow, it improves nervous system stimulation, it improves, enzyme activity and stomach acid production and bile flow and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden you can digest your food and keep the immune system in your gut in check and all of these things. So I would say, just to add that as the third thing then. So the top three things are optimize the gut microbiome with probiotics and fiber, the right
Mhm.
probiotics too. And you can make your own probiotics by making sauerkraut. Secondly, eat enough minerals and vitamins and minerals from fresh foods. And if you need a supplement, you can. And then third would be your nervous system.
Yes. Yes.
As you asked about skin, I think one of the other things, Amy, is going to be constipation. Because I've had clients come in and they've had horrific rashes. This one woman in particular covered head to toe in rashes, and she's like, she's been to every doctor, all the dermatologists, no one could help her. And the first thing I said was, "Well, how many bowel movements are you having a day?" And she's like, "What?" I said, "Well, how many bowel movements are you having a day?" She's like, "Maybe." Yeah, she's like once every couple weeks. And I was like, okay, well, that's your problem. And literally, we put her on a protocol and we just rebuilt her colon. We got everything out using organic herbs and we rebuilt her colon using herbs and all her skin cleared up. All of her skin cleared up. And we see this all the time. I honestly believe, Shannon, that the number one cause of the elderly dying is constipation. I firmly believe that. And it is already a known fact that the number one reason children go to clinics or hospitals is constipation. And I
Mhm.
dealt with it again today with an 8-year-old who was suspended from school. 8 years old. He cries all night because he's in so much pain and only a pebble comes out. And I'm like, oh, bring him home to me. Let me help him because he's angry. Because whenever we get constipated, it puts such a load on our liver because, and this is totally gross. So I'm standing in an auditorium full of these advanced eighth grade middle schoolers from all around the state, right? And I'm giving a presentation on potential of hydrogen and the periodic table of elements. And so I'm having a ball and I bring up magnesium and I talk about magnesium with the 12 protons and 12 electrons. And I ask them, do you know what magnesium does in the body? And there's complete silence in the entire auditorium. I said, well, do you guys know what calcium does in the body? And they're all completely silent. I was like, where are your teachers? And they all probably said, you guys got to really train this up. I mean, we all laughed about it. And then I talked about what these minerals do in the body. Magnesium relaxes muscles. So if you're
Mhm.
constipated or have AFib or any kind of muscle pain, we look at magnesium or calcium constricts. And so I was explaining that when we are constipated, if we don't have these 2 or 3 bowel movements a day, depending on how many times we eat a day, then we aren't releasing the toxins and they actually get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. And so magnesium will help relax those bowels. So will herbs, obviously, to help move that. And it was really interesting because I told the kids, I'm like, literally, guys, if you are not pooping every day, and you are having your poop back in your bloodstream, and 20% of what you exhale comes out of your bloodstream, you're pooping on your friends all day long. And of course, the crowd went wild and the auditorium broke out in laughter. And then all the boys were like, on all the people around him. But it's just interesting when we realize that that puts a lot of pressure. And so when I was talking to this mother today, about this boy, I'm like, the issue that you're going to see is high blood pressure because there's sludge in the blood. You've got all the food that's not getting out of the body, and now you've got poo that's not getting out of the body. Our body is calling in all the white blood cells it possibly can. Like you have got heavy sludge in the blood, and that's going to cause even further health issues. Besides the fact that we aren't getting toxins out once a every 2 weeks isn't regular. Once a week isn't regular. Once a day
Mhm.
isn't regular if we're eating 2 or 3 meals a day. So it's just,
Mhm.
I would do skin right away as well. Look at the constipation for the skin. See if they are having bowel movements. That's just, I mean, we can go on and on about skin, but I know you had mentioned that. And when Amy started talking up, I just want to bring up the constipation because that has helped
Mhm.
so many people resolve their skin issues.
Yes. And also the constipation. I have several mom friends who talk about their kids being constipated and in so much pain. And it's
Oh,
heartbreaking, especially with, what you call the SAD, the standard American diet. And it's tough because you try to promote more fun like fruits and veggies and all of these sort of things, but a lot of kids don't enjoy them. So we've tried like in our household to just make it like a regular thing. We don't make a big fuss about it. And if they don't like the broccoli, I make sure there's at least fruit so they get some sort of those nutrients in. Do you have any recommendations for moms when they say like my kid's a picky eater, he just won't have
Yeah.
anything except for
Yeah.
chicken nuggets and mac and cheese?
Yeah. Mom and I will both have things to comment on here. Karen, I don't know if you want to start or if I should start with my nannying stories.
honey, you're already pumped. I saw you like jump around in the
I
seat and get
know.
all
I'm like,
excited. And I'm
someone hold
like,
me
I'm
down.
not even the mom,
Hold
and
me
you're
down.
excited. So you run
Okay.
with it,
So
girl.
I grew up in Karen's household. I'm the seven of 10 kids. And we've all been through different phases of like what vegetables we liked and what fruits we liked and what nuts and seeds we liked. But whether or not we were eating a whole food diet was never an option. And when I say never option, I mean your kids will eat if they are hungry enough. All right,
Mm-hmm.
that might sound cruel until you understand that the alternative to feeding them a whole food diet is inducing diseases that I think are more cruel than making your kid go hungry for a week or two while they adapt to a new diet. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to
Amen.
share. Secondly,
Man, that was good, Amy. That was good. That was good. You just keep it coming.
I had the opportunity to be a nanny for a few families, and I'm sorry, I got something caught in my throat. I'm not actually tearing up, even though this subject does matter a lot. And the moms did have a really good attitude. You know, some of the families that I cooked for, the kids did cry the first couple times they sat down at the dinner table. I mean, the food looked totally different. The lentil
Mm-hmm.
bean tacos, the shredded lettuce, the cashew cream sauce, that was the cheese
Yum.
replacement.
Mhm, yum.
All these different items, like they just cried. And the moms I worked with were awesome. They're like, keep making it. Like kids might need 14 exposures to something before they like it. Like kids need
Mm-hmm.
multiple exposures. And they were very encouraging. They're like, we're gonna give this 2 weeks and see how much they come around. And by the end of involving them in making the food to try to make it fun and them just tasting things and sampling things, by the end of that, they their palate had totally shifted and they were open to almost
Wow.
everything we put on the plate. There's still going to be things that some kids aren't going to like, and we're definitely not into force feeding, children anything. We don't want to like inadvertently create
Mm-hmm.
eating disorders later on in life either. But yeah, there is I just want to give hope to moms that like they might need several exposures to something before it starts to
Mm-hmm.
become more tolerable to them. And the more you involve them in the food preparation process, the more
Yeah.
interested they'll be in eating it. I had kids help me prep spaghetti where we blended just like pounds of steamed vegetables into the spaghetti sauce, and
Mhm.
they would have never touched that. But because they helped prepare all the veggies and roast them and put them in the blender and see it poured in, like they were all, scarfing that spaghetti. So, big believer in
Yeah.
involving kids in that process. And while you're talking about constipation in children, I have to say, I was visiting one of my best friends yesterday, and she said, "Amy, I finally put my kid on some probiotics, and I can't believe how much that helped with their digestive issues." She said, "My son was having constipation, and we went to the doctor, and the doctor said he should be on Miralax every day. And the
Oh
doctor said,
no.
and the doctor said that his daughter's been on Miralax for years." And that's just what they need sometimes. And I said, "Did you fire your doctor? Because that is horrible. That is malpractice. That's medical
Mm,
malpractice to give that horrible advice." And she's like, "I couldn't believe no one we ever talked to just recommended some probiotics and it fixed the gut microbiome." So
mhm,
sun fiber is a product. It's a great fiber. It blends, like you can't taste it. I've noticed a lot of kids will take that in things. So sun fiber by, I forget who it is, Master Supplements or US Enzymes. It
Yeah.
comes in a
mhm.
blue bottle. We love that one. Mega Prebiotic Fiber by Microbiome Labs makes some fibers. Though that can be a little bit pricey, but it's a great fiber blend. So diversifying, like, and don't forget your legumes and beans and some of these complex grains, those actually have a lot more fiber than just your fruit. So
Mhm.
if you can get kids eating like lentil beans or any types of beans and sprouted grains and things like that, still counts
Yeah.
towards their fiber intake. But yeah, just wanted to share those little pointers there.
Do I get to go?
Sorry, Mom. Yes,
But I
please.
know. No, I'm so excited. I actually, I have a class coming up on Thursday. It's real fast food. But if it's my biggest thing to moms, if it's not in the house, they're not going to eat it. Oh, my kids will just eat this. And, well, then don't bring it in the house. Like that's pretty simple. We ran two daycare centers. I had hundreds of children in my daycare centers. We had gardens
Mhm.
at both the daycare centers. The kids planted the garden. The kids picked the garden. The kids brought the
Fun.
food in, like and they loved it. And so if children just get exposed to it, and I have the funniest story for the moms who are maybe not believers, but if it's not in the house, they won't eat it. We had a new child started our daycare. Now he's like 27 years old. I can talk about this. But he was like this little boy, and he always brought his own little bagged lunch. And I encouraged them to leave the lunch at home and just let him eat with all the rest of us because we always had, we had a chef and we had great meals. And so he started leaving his bag lunch at home and he wouldn't eat anything at lunch, wouldn't eat a snack, like all day he wouldn't eat. And it went on and on. And I was like, what's going on here? And I talked to the mom and she said, well, dad picks him up after daycare and takes him to fast food to get McDonald's because he, has starved all day. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Oh,
I said, so we're going to let's renome this. Let's just have him take some Hello Bites. And so this young boy started taking bites of everything that we would make. He loved oranges. He loved everything. Everything we ever, he just started eating and eating and eating and eating. And he like couldn't wait for snack and lunchtime anymore. And we always prayed before our meals. And his mother once commented, she's like, well, now you have the whole family praying, giving thanks before our meals, and he won't stop eating vegetables. I'm like, well, that's a pretty good thing. And he's grown up to be he just grew up to be this hunky guy, in the military, all buff and all. And I'm like, I think we had something to do with that, but it was really neat because it had
good.
exposure. So fast food can be, we did this commercial one time when the kids were young. Amy was probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old when we did this commercial where our set was set up and I was like talking and then each of the kids came in behind me to grab an apple, grab a bag of trail mix, open up the fridge and grab some celery. And, it was a fast food commercial about what's fast. And then
Mhm.
like all the food was gone. I was like, wow, that was easy. So, in the
Yeah.
car, having bags of trail mix or a quart jar of trail mix and having, some popcorn if your kids like popcorn, if you do corn and, or, some smoothies after school or if it's a long drive,
Mhm.
like there's so many things that you can do in your own home with just an hour of prep work on a Sunday night that would leave the kids having food at their disposal. And we always had, and for my grandkids, when they come, there's an area that they can open the cupboard and it's all food that they can eat. That's all stuff they can reach, they can grab anytime, and it's all healthy. So that was just something I wanted to mention. It probably would be helpful if we have like 6 things to do for constipation. So I'm just going to rattle them off real quick.
Mhm.
Water. A lot of people don't have enough water. They're dehydrated, so their stool is very like boop, boop, like little pebbles, because they're just so
Mhm.
dehydrated. So lots more water, fiber, which you get from nuts and seeds and grains and beans and fruit, right? Those are all fiber rich things. And fibers don't have actually nutrients, but fibers feed the bacteria in the body. So the more
Mhm.
diverse the fiber, the more diverse the microbiome. Your minerals and your vitamins, that's going to come from the rest of the produce, but that fiber is what feeds, and the diversity of fiber is what feeds the microbiome. Um,
Mhm.
Interesting enough, exercise, right? Exercising, so getting on the shaking unit, having the kids exercise, which is why you take your little baby and you run their legs like they're going to go running,
Mhm.
right? Because we're moving, moving their body. Making sure they have enough magnesium. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium because it is a mineral that a lot of soil is deficient in. Lucky for
Mhm.
us at Lily Fields, we have so much magnesium and so much calcium in our soil that will be great growing anything that has magnesium in it. And then another thing besides probiotics that Amy already mentioned was cell phone use. Cell phone is extremely constipating. You put that cell phone in your back pocket, sometimes even in your front pockets, and you get constipated because
Wow.
EMFs are literally altering our body incredibly. And so constipation can be easily caused just by always having a cell phone in your pocket because it's disturbing the actual bioelectricity of the body.
Wow.
So those
Wow.
6 things there. So water, fiber, exercise, probiotics, cell phone, and did I mention them all? Magnesium. There we go. 6 of them.
Mm,
Thank you.
Thank
All right. So I do want to hear a little bit more about the fields, but I have one more question. So for the mamas who might feel overwhelmed by all the information and they might be like, okay, I need to change everything. What can we give them as just maybe one small step or some sort of tweak to help support theirs and their kids, their gut health, and their nervous system? What's something they can start implementing today that doesn't feel too overwhelming?
Yeah, well, Karen and I will probably have different tips for this. Karen, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can. And the number one thing is water.
Water.
Water conducts electricity. And so a lot of people grab food because they think they're hungry, but they're actually thirsty. You can't live without water, and you need a lot of water. And so look at you. There we go, Shannon. That's right. And so water, water, water. I think I've had 3 quarts already today. Like it's just how our bodies function. And I think that's a really big thing. And then I wanted to talk about side dishes. If there's one thing I would recommend for children's mental health and their neurological health is to avoid side dishes. I'm not talking broccoli on the side here or a little bit cashew cream. I'm talking insecticide, larvicide, herbicide, right? These
Mhm.
insecticide is designed to kill the living nervous system of an insect. A pesticide is designed to do the same thing. An herbicide kills the system, the nervous system of a plant, and the larvicide is put in all your meat to kill the larvae that are in the meat. They won't come out, but they'll be dead and you'll be eating them. And so these side dishes are all designed to do one thing, and they do it very well to children. They kill their nervous systems. They destroy the nervous system. It's what they're
Wow.
designed to do. So would you please just spread the word to eat organic? I fed my children. We did not ever put a food budget together. I never once, raising all of these children, had a food budget. And when I had the 11th child, which she was adopted, the 12th child left with me from one of my students, all of the people who've ever lived in my home or come to my home or visit my home or come to our retreats are going to eat organic because I
Mhm.
won't put side dishes into anyone. And when I was raising my children, yes, food was and you won't. I've done all these studies. Oh my gosh, I could talk until the cows come home. I have done studies on is it cheap to eat organic? It is less expensive to eat organic than it is to eat regular because you have what's called brick weight and you have this apostat. The apostat is at the base of the brain. It controls the appetite. When you have nutrients in the bloodstream, your apostat turns off. You are not hungry because you have so many nutrients nutrients in the bloodstream from the handful of trail mix or the little side salad that you are not hungry anymore. That
Mhm.
apostat will turn back on when you need more nutrients, which is why you can eat a Big Mac, a double burger, whatever, with a side of fries and a shake, and you're hungry in half an hour because those aren't
Mhm.
nutrients, those are toxins, and they're very different.
Mhm.
And so cleaning up the diet to eliminate the side dishes is and then going more organic, you're actually going to spend less. And we have study after study after that. Trust me. I even went into a grocery store one time and like I wrote down like how much everything costs in the grocery store, and then I get figured out per ounce, and I was like, "Look at this, honey! You are paying so much. This, $40.14 for a Lunchable compared to a pound of legumes for 23 cents a pound. Like it was just really neat. So I think just giving up the pesticides that is on, and just to make a point, a pound of non-organic cheese has more side dishes sprayed on all of the grain that the animals were eating, that the cows were eating, than is sprayed on an acre of vegetation. So dairy is loaded with side dishes that our children should never be exposed to. So getting to a cleaner organic diet, there's a reason because your grandchildren are in there. Your grandchildren are in your children. Is it worth it to you to spend the extra money or time to cook a meal and to buy better food? That's the decision you have to make. But the decision
Mhm.
that this mother this morning has to change is she's been too busy to take care of her 8-year-old because she's very busy with her fancy work, and she's got to change that, and she's willing to. But it does take, it takes a little bit more motivation. But I'm telling you, you're looking at a lady who we had, the 10 kids in the home, the other two came a little bit later. And we had businesses and we made every dinner. We made all of our meals. We made home
Priority.
sandwiches.
Mhm.
We did. And it mattered to me because now the grandbabies are coming and they're beautiful and they're healthy. And that wouldn't have happened had I cut all the corners just to save money. And it was just different for me. So that's what I want to say. Drink more water, avoid the side dishes, and have the fast food, healthy stuff available. That's my thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks, Mom. Uh, my point is probably to moms, what would I say, who would be feeling overwhelmed or like where do they start? I would just acknowledge that you've successfully lived through one of the most convoluted food industry eras in mankind's history. And just have the perspective that I do not think we were meant to have to avoid 90% of the food we're exposed to, maybe
Mm.
95% of the food we're exposed to. I mean, rewind 100 years ago. You could have probably eaten anything someone handed you and been healthier for it. Like what are they
Mm.
making? Pot roast with like a cow they butchered and some fresh vegetables from under like from the cellar, from like the fall harvest. What like, are they handing you some sourdough bread? Like are they handing you some imported chocolate chips from Europe? Like our food industry is just in such a different planet right now. Like, you are not meant to have to avoid 95% of the foods you're being exposed to. I don't think that's fair to moms, Our society, if you're talking about raising your child in a tribe, your tribe's not for you right now. Your kids go over to friends' houses and they're dishing out cake and candy and juice. Like, that's not for you. And I'm only saying that so that moms can have like compassion on themselves and just realize the reality we're in right now. If it feels like a lot, that's because it wasn't meant to be you versus the entire world. It was not meant to be like this. This is the result of 50 years of letting corporate agendas influence public policy
Mhm.
and just make a profit off of foods that literally make you ill. So
Yes.
just give yourself like a big breathe in and breathe out. Your kids will very likely grow up in an era where it is easier to eat healthy than it is now. Like I think we're through the worst of it, from what I can
Mhm.
tell from like my background in policy. I believe we're through the worst it's ever been. There's way more awareness, way more policy advocacy going on now to improve food systems so that
Mhm.
gradually that 90% is going to go down to 80%, going to go down to 50%. Maybe it'll even get below 50% where like you can just go out and eat what you're handed and eat what's at the grocery store and eat what your other friends are eating and it not be making you sick. So does that make sense? So just
Mhm.
maintain that perspective because some of these changes, it does feel really intimidating and it's gonna feel you are like literally swimming upstream of like all of society, of your neighbors, of your family, of your mom, of the grocery store. you are a fish swimming in the opposite direction doing these types of things, and just, man, it is not always easy, but there are people who have your back, and every little change you make in the right direction is going to add up.
Yes. Thank you, Amy.
Just for perspective, Shannon,
Yes.
Amy is the high schooler who would show up with a cucumber and peppers. And just whip them out, middle of class, be chomping on a cucumber in social studies class. So I'm just like letting you know this is where you can either, the kids will either really grasp it and be like, dudes, this is the best. But they can also, at times, she would take her green drink and hide in the bathroom behind a stall to drink it because that was a little embarrassing because your mother's insane and she just made you drink a green drink. So like
Yeah.
your mothers are going to find what fits, and the kids are going to find where they fit too. They really, really will. Some are going to flaunt it because it's fun and exciting, and some might hide a little bit of it, but don't give up.
I hear you. My 5-year-old loves his carrots and hummus for snacks. But then my 7-year-old is like, no, I'm not eating that. No. So I'm like, just eat the carrots. You don't have to eat the hummus if you don't like how it looks, but just eat the
I
carrots.
love you. I love you. I love you.
But we're good about, like you were saying, Amy, with helping like the prep. So with smoothies, we always put chia seeds and the ground flaxseed and just little things to where it just is normal. It's just every time we make a smoothie with our fruit and veggies, he's always like, Mom, wait, where's the chia seeds and the flax seeds? We need to add those too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's so
but
awesome.
it's tough, especially when the kids, come over and all the kids are eating ice cream and popsicles, and then I'm trying to do like homemade ones. So it's a transition, but we're trying. And before we wrap up, Zuzu, I want you to talk a little bit because you've mentioned it throughout the podcast. How did Lilyfield's retreat center come to life? Give me all the details.
Mm. With or without crying. So I've always I've done retreats since 2009. And so I started doing retreats and we just loved them. And I always wanted to open up a retreat center where people could come and just live this lifestyle, live here, swim in our structured water pool, eat our food, do detoxing, work on the farm. I don't care. Just come like and feel and taste this and live this way. We want families to come. And so I started our school. Well, Amy jumped into the school in, was it 2020, honey, that we made holistic health educators. It was always Karen's Holistic Health, and I had started getting my online programs up, but then Amy stepped in and she's incredible. So now we're, international, 100 different languages, and people can get certified in multiple certifications. We have 30 courses. Like, it's just phenomenal. We love it, love it, love it. But I still wanted to open up this retreat center. And so I bought an RV in 2022. I was divorced, and all the kids were raised. And so I bought an RV, renovated it, wrapped it, with all the organs, glands, and tissues. And I started driving around the country looking for where can I open up a retreat center. And it just so happens that Amy actually joined me in December of 22. And we went to look at this one place that we thought might be it. This might just be it. And we pulled in and it was like, wow, right? And I'm like, nope, God said this isn't it. Like, I just relied all the time on when I'm going to know, I'm going to know. But we still looked at it because Amy's like, Mom, it's 4 million. Can we just look at the property? And so we looked at the property. It was super fun. And then we had seen this other one location in Georgia. We had, like I said, been all over the country, and we decided we'd drive. It was a beautiful day, and we drove down to Hawkinsville, Georgia, which is in the middle of nowhere with only a couple thousand people living here. And we pulled in the driveway like 20 feet, and I just knew it. And I was like, okay, we're going to buy it because it was such a strong impression from God. And then when we got in with our realtor to drive around the property, she took us down to the boathouse, and we went into the boathouse, which just had 4 walls. There was just nothing, a dinky little toilet in the wrong place, and it was just an empty shell. And Amy and I both just cried. We were like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so it was it. And we took a tour of the property, and I'm a visionary, so I can see. And so I walked into, the one of the buildings that had been stables, and we're like, oh my gosh, this can be the store and the wellness center, blah, blah. And then the realtor was like, well, there's a house, you want to see the house. And Amy and I were like, what? There's a house? So we drove up to the house, and it was just magical. It was a day I don't think either one of us can ever forget. And then all the cards just fell into place. We took everything that Amy had, that I had, that my daughter Lily, she was involved. There were 4 of us that put everything we owned into this. And we had a really good friend pass away. Amy had been her caretaker. She was one of my students, and she was 77 when she passed away. And she had become a really close friend of our family. And when right before she died, she said, "Hey, Karen, I made you the trustee of the will, and there's something in there." And I was like, okay. And so I went to prayer and I was like, okay, God, well, with the couple 100,000, whatever, it's going to be, what am I going to do? I could go over here, I could do that. And he's like, oh no, you're going to open up Lily Fields. And I said, what's Lily Fields? And so the next day I went and I told Mary, because she was in the hospital, I was going to bring her home the next day on hospice. And then she died a few days later. But I said, Mary, I said, everything that you're going to leave to me, I said, I'm going to open up Lily Fields. It's going to be a wellness center and it'll be, and I'm going to use everything that you left me. And then Amy said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to open up Lily Fields. And Lily Fields was Mary's email. She loved lilies. And so Lily Fields of lilies was her favorite thing. And so Amy said, well, then that's what I'm going to do with anything that she left me. And her sister was there. And she's like, well, that's what I'm going to do with anything she left me. And then my other daughter, Lily, who Mary loved terribly, Lily did the same thing. So we took everything we had, everything I had from the houses that I had sold, and then everything Mary had, and we all just put everything together and we bought Lily Fields, and here we are. So that's what it is. So
And then tell me a little bit more. I want to come to Georgia. I want to go to
yes, come.
there's cooking classes, you said swimming. What is all there?
Please visit our website. It's amazing, lilyfieldcenter.com. But it's 69 acres. Right now, we started electroculture gardening. We have 4 like greenhouses or hothouses that are built that will be starting this year. We'll be starting our starts in them. We teach permaculture and organic gardening and saving seeds. We definitely have food classes. During the retreats, we teach food classes. Sometimes we have retreats that are just foodie retreats, where you just make food the whole 3 or 4 days. So you learn how to ferment and you learn how to do raw granolas. You know how to do raw sprouting and nuts and seeds and making raw breads and everything. Anything you want to do in the kitchen, we do, because anything, you can make anything. You can make absolutely anything in your own kitchen, and that's what we teach. And so, and then we have the clinical, we call them clinical retreats. So we have health retreats, detox retreats. We do a clinical retreat, and we actually just released today different packages, because some people want to come to a retreat just to get away, to learn, to be in all the classes, eat all the food, do some detoxing. We have a structured water pool. We're actually the first structured water pool in the world that's open to the public. There's more than 5,000 frequencies in our pool. We use 10 megs of ozone. It goes through UV lights and zeolite to filter, and not sand. And it's a saltwater based pool, so it's really amazing. So people come for that, and then there are those that come and they get the full ultrasound. And we have our own labs. We can run all our own blood work and urine analysis, thermal imaging. Our surgeon that has been a Russian surgeon for about 28 years, she flies in for all of our retreats and does all the ultrasounds of the body, and then all the other diagnostic and non-diagnostic. So we have a lot going on, but we also people can come just play. They can just come and play. So
I was going to say, if I link the website and the show notes, are the retreats and the schedules and everything all available on that site?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's through Lily Field Center with 2 L's. And then that's separate from our online school. So we run an online
Okay.
school of natural medicine, and that's where we have 6 different certification tracks and 30 different courses. Some of them are accredited, and some of them are intentionally not accredited, so that we have full freedom to teach you what we want. Very cool course tracks. This is an alternative to going back to school. If you were like, I want to go back to school and get a degree in XYZ, we would say actually check out these courses instead, because it is unbelievable training from people who have been doing this for years, and many of them are able to condense their life's work into a 30-hour masterclass. So you do
Wow.
not need to be, a lot of our certifications are compilations of other people's masterclasses. Yeah. Like, so for instance, our holistic health practitioner certification, it is a $12,000 program, but you get 12 advanced courses from experts in autoimmune conditions, in alternative lab testing, in the gut microbiome. Like, the literal founder of Microbiome Labs actually a 40-hour masterclass on being a clinical gut specialist. and blood work and nervous system regulation and neuropsychology and how to help people calm down their nervous system and how to help your own nervous system. So you get these master classes on top of our core foundational training. And I say, like, I learned 10x in that program that I did in my $150,000 degree program from Hopkins, like 10x. So
Yeah.
education's changing too. It's not just healthcare that's changing right now. Like with the internet and with online platforms and with the free market, like people are coming up
Yeah.
with very cool solutions to the traditional 4-year go to college to learn calculus because you want to be a health professional and then not even learn about health. Like that model is very old now, thankfully.
Yeah. I'm like collecting certifications left and right now. So I'm like just a sponge absorbing it all. I'm like, what's next? What's next?
Cool.
I dropped a website, Shannon, just into the chat.
Oh,
ZuZu
perfect.
Unleashed. So ZuZu Unleashed has just, you can go everywhere from one website because holistic health educators, that's our main thing. We just love education and our educators are incredible. And then we have an online store, ZuZu Energy, and that's where people can get their sunbiotics and their fibers and whatever. But then we have the Lily Field. So that's kind of one location that you can pick up a bunch of stuff. So just thought I'd throw it out there.
Awesome. I will link that in the show notes. And then as we close out, is there any last message that you want to share with mamas, whether it is gut health or nervous system? I know they're all tied together, but any last message, whether it's about the love from instead of the pressure, and I know Amy touched on that a little as well, but just one last message that you want to share with the audience today.
You want to go first, Amy?
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, the fact that you're listening to this podcast says a lot about where you're at and how interested you are in taking care of your body and in taking care of your children. And I've met moms and a lot of women who will compare themselves to earlier periods in their life where they'll be like, well, I used to be a bodybuilder and I used to meal prep and I used to do all of these things, and they'll relate back and be like, I'm just going to go back and do it that I'm going to try to do it that way again because I used to do it. And I'm like, what has changed in your life? Like you have children now, your husband's job might have changed, maybe your job has changed, your body has changed, your hormones may have changed. Like all of these things are different now than they were back then. And like what worked for you then could make things worse now. And maybe it could make things better. Who's to say that?
Mm-hmm.
So my piece of advice would be just the grace you can give yourself for the fact you are doing like as good as you can right now, as good as your brain is allowing you to do with the programs it has running. And
Mm-hmm.
uh yeah, just these things absolutely add up. When your brain tastes the rewards of doing it a new way more than maybe 5 to 8 times, the neural pathway will start to go that direction. So
Yes.
behavior change is definitely the most tricky in the beginning because your brain hasn't gotten the neurochemicals needs met, the dopamine and the serotonin and the norepinephrine and the acetylcholine. It hasn't felt that from doing it the new way yet enough times to trust it. But as soon as it starts doing it the new way enough times, it's like, I do feel better when I do that. And then you're not pushing yourself into it. Then you're doing it because it's actually better for you. So I would just say, be experimental in crafting this next era of your life and give yourself the grace of those, the hello bite we give the kids, as a mom, give yourself the hello bite of a new behavior, just a hello
Mm-hmm.
bite of trying something new and just see how it affects your neurochemistry and your body and do that enough times till all of a sudden your brain's like, actually, I do like doing it this way. And that makes
Yeah.
behavior change much less about pressure and much more about like getting your needs met as a human.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Now,
you, Amy.
that was awesome, Amy. I would like to end just on love because like what wouldn't we do for someone that we loved? Like my youngest daughter was bedridden for 4.5 years because no one knew what was wrong with her. We took her in and out of the country to doctors, medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, everywhere. I mean, 120 different specialists, right, in their fields, and no one had an answer. But there, and we did. I sold my horses, sold the chickens, sold the farm. We sold everything, like because that's my girl and that it
Mhm.
mattered more to find out what we could do, to help her. And the answers just came, and it was so incredible to learn along that journey. So I think we can get really busy as moms. We can make ourselves very busy as moms because most moms also, check emails and check social media, and some of them try to work and some of them we try to keep up with the Joneses, and that's not always necessary, because the most important thing is to pour out that love on your kids, and because that's now your job. You had them, and that's now your responsibility. It won't be in a few years. It won't be. They'll be gone, and you won't have that, and you can have that time more for what you'd like to do. But I just want to tell my story, in that I can imagine not doing what I did do while raising kids, because the children are happy. They're very functional. They all work so hard. They've not been sick. Besides Lily's setbacks, which has been triumphant. She's doing phenomenal now. She was actually we diagnosed her with dysautonomia, which is a shutdown of the autonomic nervous system, which was just deadly. You just died from it ever since the 1800s. But you don't anymore, because there's acupuncture, and there's so many things that we've been exposed to that can readjust the autonomic nervous system. And there's more on that on the website. I wrote a book on how to reverse it. It's free. But it's just having enough love. Maybe that's the word. Have enough love to put yourself second. Have enough love for your kids to put them first. Have enough love to change their diet. Have enough love to get more water. Have enough love, tough love, to take the junk out of the house. So if it's not there and they won't eat it, have enough love to have Potato Chip Wednesday, where your kids can go to school with a bag of organic potato chips in coconut oil, and it tastes amazing, right? And that's just one day a week. And have Chocolate Fridays, where you have enough love to get up and make yourself some chocolate. It's very easy to make chocolate, or buy some really good stuff, which there's lots of it available now. That's really clean. Like, there are ways to put your kids first, and you can still have your life. But all I can say is, if you can dedicate more time to your children and less time to you, you are going to have children that turn out like Amy. And could you imagine having a better legacy? Like, I wrote a poem years ago, and it was about what I would leave in this life. And the thing I'm actually leaving in this life, there's books, there's videos, there's countless things, but the most important thing is going to be it's my children. That's my legacy. Those are my heirlooms. My heirlooms won't be my collection of shoes, because I hate shoes and I hate shopping and have like 4 pairs of shoes. Like, it won't be anything. But my heirloom will be my children, and that can be your heirlooms too, and that's all that matters. So just love them more than you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Video was absolutely beautiful. I've learned so many new things. I'm going to go on the website and just go down that rabbit hole.
So sweet.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to chatting again another time, because there was so much that we covered, but then there's also just opened up all these other doors.
Well, thank you for your time, Shannon, and for hosting us. Thank you. And to all the moms and listening, and thank you for your time.
Yes, thanks for making the time. You guys, you moms are great. And yes, bring a bunch of moms and come to Lilyfields for a mom retreat. That would be just amazing. We'd have so much fun. Even though we have scheduled retreats, we can always schedule another one. So just let us know.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone.